Hello everyone and welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of A British American's Guide to This Weekend in Motorsports. I'm your host Samuel Reiman and with me today is Jared Sells. Jared,
hello.
Yeah, why don't you tell them a bit about yourself?
I'm the former producer of MotoGP. I produce Formula E here for Fox Sports. Big motorcycle enthusiast is my main passion, so trying to add a little expertise on the upcoming MotoGP season this weekend.
Yeah, we have MotoGP kicking off this weekend as well as Formula 1. And Jared, I'd say it's been a good week leading into it because, it get off topic a little bit here. Monday night, I fried my first ever batch of eggs. I'm not that good at cooking. What did you do for dinner Monday night?
Monday night, I actually had the privilege to sit down with a legend, Mario Andretti, and sit down and talk with him for 4 hours about his life, ranging from his childhood to his racing days. And I'm just going to say, you can read books, you can watch movies, nothing compares to actually hearing it from this man's mouth. And everything he had to say, my jaw dropped. 3.5, almost 4 hour meeting or a dinner, and I felt almost cheated. I could have gone for another 4 hours. So.
Yeah.
But congratulations on the eggs. I saw that.
Oh, yes.
Slow cook. Yes.
Yeah, I need to flip them over. That's what I need to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's
I
a
tried
strategy
sunny
to
side
that.
up.
Yeah, because growing up in the South, you have to either, if you don't do scrambled, I mean, you have the scrambled eggs, but the sunny side up and the fried eggs are kind of big. So next stage is grits. Go for it.
All right. So before we move on to talking about F1 this weekend, what was the best story Mario had?
Actually, for me, when he talked about MotoGP, he's a huge MotoGP fan. He loves racing of all kinds. But he was telling me about, in the early 90s, the first race at Laguna Seca, he had the opportunity to take a 500cc two-stroke MotoGP machine. And for those who don't understand MotoGP, they're the most elite form of racing, the baddest bikes. But in the whole of MotoGP, the 502 stroke was the rawest machine that you could get. You could never tell when the power band was going to kick in. It would high side you and throw you to the moon. A very raw machine. Mario gets on it for what should be some parade laps around Laguna Seca, and they time him. He would have qualified 18th on the grid. And now I know 18th on the grid of any grid's like, not so great. He's not a MotoGP racer. He's out qualifying guys who have trained their whole life to be in this moment. And he threw down a lap faster than them without any practice, without any warm-up. So, yeah, that was kind of one of those moments that I'm just sitting there in awe of what the man could do.
Okay, and what the man could do over in Formula 1 was in 1978 he won the World Championship in one of the most historic race cars of all time, the Lotus 79. And one thing people really like about the Lotus 79 is not only how technologically advanced it was, but also how good it looked. And of course, one of the big changes coming to F1 this year is making the cars look more aesthetically pleasing. But do you think we're still going to be in for a good show this weekend in Australia?
I think so. I'm still disappointed about the showing of, I hate to say it, but I don't like to call manufacturers out, but the McLaren team, I want that team to be so much faster because of the history there, the drivers that they've had and do have. Fernando Alonso, to have him sidelined so many races is kind of sad. You'd like to see what he could actually do. But on the flip side, you have Ferrari, who is actually posting the quickest times in testing leading up to this. So you're catching up with the Mercedes that's been a proven vehicle. Ferrari's been amazing. So I think we actually will have a 3-horse race this season with Red Bull and give us what we're looking for. Plus with Formula 1 shaving off all the lap times, I think that would be pretty cool. The big wings, the big tires, that's an era I think we kind of need to get back to because I think we lost something with the most recent engine change. They don't sound that high pitch. You don't get the high pitch anymore, so you kind of miss it.
Yeah, but like I say, Ferrari, there's a lot of hype about them heading into this weekend. But then there was this time last year as well, and of course, as we know, Ferrari didn't win a race last year, despite the fact I think their cars were running first and second at the end of the first lap of the 2016 Australian Grand Prix. And I agree with you about Alonso. Not only just these wasted races, but it's almost been a wasted career he's had because he won 2 world championships as really young. And then for the last 10 years, he's been one of the most talented drivers on the grid, but never in a good car, really.
And look at those years in Ferrari. He came down to essentially the last race or last 2 races in that championship. He was competitive for the championship, but you're also facing Vettel and Newey at that time. So you had a team in Red Bull that was amazing. Alonso's got the talent. I think he needs that team and that car behind him. And if your engine can't make it the whole race, you're not going to win. So that's just clear cut as it can be. But like you said, Alonso's kind of wasting races now in his career. I feel bad for the guy because he's an amazing talent. He's one of the best drivers in my opinion.
Yeah.
So.
Now, one of the talents who has gotten a good ride over in Formula One is Bottas, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do in Mercedes. However, switching gears to MotoGP now, you're really excited about the talent of Maverick Vinales heading up to Yamaha.
I've been on the Maverick Vinales bus since he was in what's now the Moto3 class. He's won in everything. He's so fast. He adapts to everything. He went to Suzuki, which was an unproven motorcycle, and he was going fast. He won a race. He was on podiums. Nobody expected him to win this race, and he did it legitimately. Now he's on a factory-supported or a factory Yamaha, and he's only going to go faster. And for him to be putting almost a second on Rossi in testing on a new bike, I don't think he's going to win the championship. But like I was telling actually Mario and dinner on Monday, I said Maverick Vinales is going to be the guy that thwarts Marquez from breaking every one of Rossi and Agostini's records. And it's not because Vinales is going to break all the records, but he's going to be that good to where he can just stop Marquez. Marquez will still win a championship or 2, but I also think that Vinales, we're looking at a multiple Premier Class world champion in the making right there. And I love Rossi. I'm a huge Rossi fan. I don't see him winning a championship over Vinales with the exception of mental strength.
Yeah, and it kind of almost sounds like we're in the golden age there of like F1 in the 1980s. Because if you look at all the drivers who were legendary from Formula One in the 1980s, none of them won more than 4 world championships, Alain Prost, because it was just so competitive. Yeah. You got Ayrton Senna 3 championships, Nigel Mansell only got 1, Prost got 4, but yet you go back in F1 history and, you still say all these drivers were legends because they fought against each other. You think we're kind of in that golden age of MotoGP right now where we got Marquez, Rossi, Lorenzo and Vinales all going at it on track?
Yeah, you got the new talent coming up, and when you see somebody like Rossi and you watch him dominate for so long, it's almost hard to watch somebody new come in and take that light because you're used to Rossi being there. And now you got Lorenzo who's coming into his own. You have Marquez. And when I say Lorenzo's coming into his own, I know he's got multiple championships. I'm just saying we've watched him progress and get stronger as he's gone, yet weaker in the rain races, and he can't hold it together at Aston. But you have Marquez there, and you have Vinales there, and the only thing we're missing is a competitive bringing Casey Stoner back. If Casey Stoner was still in this, that would be the glory heyday of MotoGP. And I'm not lying. I mean, that would be so much fun to watch Stoner on track with these guys. But Stoner's got his family. He's got his thing going on. So
yeah, kind of pulled a Rosberg a little while ago. He did over MotoGP. Now, MotoGP, not the only form of motorcycle racing we have coming on this weekend. We also have Supercross racing at Detroit. And one thing, I was kind of worried at the start of the year when Ken Roczen crashed that Dundee was going to run with the championship, as I think everyone was. But Tomac's, beginning to come on strong. He's winning races with Dundee finishing 2nd or 3rd. Who do you think's going to win this title?
You know what? That's really tough to say because I don't know where Dungee's confidence is right now. I think that the Roczen wreck really took its toll on some of these riders, the veteran riders, watching that wreck, I really do think that some of these riders are taking a step back, going, "Whoa, I don't want to end my career this way." So I don't know where his confidence is there. Obviously, Eli's confidence is through the roof right now. He's been able to track Dungey down, beat Dungey heads up. In Atlanta, he had a horrible race, but came through the field to finish second. I mean, there's only 12 points, and we still have a lot of races left. I mean, so I think it's going to go down to Vegas. Honestly, I think it's going to go down to Vegas, and I think that the winner of Vegas wins the championship.
Well, that would make for a very exciting finale, that's for sure. So we've got Formula 1 coming up this weekend, MotoGP, Supercross as well. NASCAR also racing there at Auto Club. They've had 4 different winners in the opening 4 races of the season. Congrats, Ryan Newman. That was a big win. If there's anything else you'd like to say about this weekend's racing, feel free to say it now, because I've got one more question.
I mean, you got MotoGP, Formula 1 starting up this weekend, and if you're like me, who your basketball team went out earlier than expected in NCAAs, this is a nice little transition to get you back into sports. Supercross is amazing. It always is an amazing show. NASCAR, I actually want to ask you about NASCAR.
Okay.
What are your impressions of the new segment racing?
When I asked myself this a couple of weeks ago, I said it was kind of inconclusive yet. It hasn't really made much of a change. I am beginning to see that the way the cautions fall, the biggest thing I think segment racing has had is if you do get a caution on lap 100 or say, it used to mean that meant absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Well, now it does, because lap 100 might be only 20 laps before a segment ends. And so now all of a sudden you have a 20-lap shootout for points. Is that a good thing? You know, is it confusing to some of the traditional viewers? Is it a bit gimmicky? I don't know, but I think we're seeing some great races out there on the track. It's still early in the season, though. We'll wait to see what it produces for the rest of the year.
I was critical hearing about the rule at first and the format, but ultimately your goal is to try to increase the drama and create a better show. So I'm going to give it a year and see what it does and try to give it a fair shake, because so far so good. Everybody I've talked to, they seem to like it. I'm a little bit more of a purist. I think if you're going to run a 500-mile race, you run a 500-mile race. No stops unless you're pitting. But if this works out, it works out. So, okay.
All right, so my last question. This A British American's Guide now gets broadcast to YouTube on the Global Sim Racing channel.
All right.
One thing we have on the Global Sim Racing channel is the Lionheart Retro series, which is a Lotus 79 series that I compete in. So, not so much for the other drivers, but for me. Were there any tips on racing the Lotus 79 that Mario Andretti gave you?
Actually, I'm sorry, Samuel. I forgot to actually ask about that. I did bring you up in our conversation about you racing the Lotus 79. I didn't get any tips for you. I would just say avoid the walls outside the chicanes, because
going into Montreal,
there's a lot of power. There's a lot of power behind the wheels of that car. So but the fun thing about Mario was he was telling me that he felt like he was one of the first guys to attack the corners and attack the rumble strips going through the corners. And when he got done with his lap, somebody would come up and be like, well, so-and-so's lap was so much prettier than your lap. And then he would just reply, who's faster? So I would say
attack the curbs.
Yeah, so I would say in true Mario Andretti fashion, I would be aggressive with the curbs, but be hesitant about that wall, because that wall can just end your race.
Yeah, and of course we're talking about, I was telling Jared about testing for the race at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve coming up in a couple of weeks on the Global Sim Racing channel. The wall exiting the chicane, heading into the hairpin, has got me a few times in just last night's practice session. Well, thanks for coming to talk to us today, Jared, and I'm really looking forward to the racing seasons.
Thanks for having me on. I hope I didn't take over or overstep, but it's been fun to talk racing with you, Samuel.
Oh no, it's always great to hear opinions from people who follow MotoGP, Supercross throughout the time, and we're all really looking forward to the races. Hope you all do too, and enjoy it all this weekend.